are part of the world. And there's a recording in progress. So we need to think about that. Anyone on the internet will be able to hear these words at some point. Imagine. What is our identity in the world of religious identities? And what power does it bring for all the world? Parker Palmer, in his quotes, 14 ways of looking at community, notes that the concept of community must embrace even those we perceive as enemy. As long as I am here, he said, the person I least want to live with will be there as well. That knowledge is one of the difficult but redeeming gifts that community has to offer, he writes. And he also notes hard experiences thus. There's hard experiences in community. And anyone who has been a part of a congregation for a while knows that sometimes conflicts will rise up, differences will rise up, and challenges will rise up, and we will have to face them together, and sometimes we get divided by those hard experiences. Differences of opinion, we say diversity need not mean divisiveness, right? That's what William Schultz said. But sometimes it leads to divisiveness. We can see the people who want to use their difference and be certain that their side of the difference is right, and they want to force it on others. To meet the enemy within is to meet the enemy in community. To deal with conflict and betrayal are never the death knell of community unless we allow them to be the gateway to the more real thing. The connections, the power that's already present. As he said, community is not a gift, not something we have to create. It's already there. It's just we need to nurture it so that it becomes more healthy and vital and vibrant. As he says, community is not the Garden of Eden. He said, after the first flush of romance, true community is less like a garden and more like a crucible, which through difference and through conflict, we become closer to one another. One spiritual quality that is essential to Unitarian Universalism that allows us not just to endure but to thrive in hard moments is being open, embracing wonder and mystery beyond certainty. There's a lot of people who love the feeling, most people love certainty. We love to be clear. There's a lot of times where I've been absolutely certain about something that turns out I was wrong on that. We love certainty, and many religions and religious communities will offer you certainty. Steve Clem keeps telling me, if only I would just promise people certain eternal life, we'd get a lot more members. We want to be certain. But we know, and we like science because we know that scientific process will get you closer to the truth, more certain about some things than others. But there's all sorts of limits to that. And we know that no information is absolute. As I said a few weeks ago, our understanding of dinosaurs is constantly evolving. Dinosaurs are still evolving even though they've been dead for millions of years. Right? Zen Buddhists will tell you to value the don't know mind. A state of being where uncertainty is just the way it is. Be okay with that. Be open to the fact that you're not going to know everything. That if you can get it all in your mind, it's too small. Right? The universe is out here, full of wonder and awe. I had a Unitarian Universalist who'd been raised Catholic. And every time that he had asked her some question, almost eventually it was any question that he asked, but at first it was just, he would ask questions like, how is it that Jesus is a mortal person who dies, but is also the immortal God that created the universe. How can he be both at the same time? That doesn't make any sense. And his mom would say, it's a mystery. Now, this isn't a legitimate Catholic answer to a lot of questions. They struggled really hard with the Unitarians early on who were asking hard questions, and they tried to come up with doctrines that would solve all those questions, and eventually they realized it's just a mystery. We can't explain it. And my friend used to hate that. It was like his mom's way of getting out of arguments and not thinking about religion, not being confronted with the fact that it didn't make any sense. And then as he got older, he began to realize there were lots of places in life where things were just a mystery. And you really could not fully understand them or control them. You had to be open to the wonder of life, to the mystery of life, to the awesomeness that it goes beyond the realms and the barriers of your own mind, to realize that you are part of something that is bigger than you and glorious and grand and scary in some ways, but still beautiful and full of things you had not expected. Our tradition, Unitarian Universalists, for centuries, have tried to take reality and put it into words, and then seen the limits of those words and replaced it with other words. I mean, back in the 1606, Unitarians in Poland, there was great Reformation was going on, and the Unitarians in Poland put down the Rakovian Catechism to teach their children and their people how to answer all religious questions. It's an interesting thing to read, if you're interested in Christian theology, to read a Unitarian catechism. But it's no longer a living document. It's not used by communities much anymore. Of course, in Poland, the Catholics came back and killed them all, forced them to run over the mountains. In America, 100 years later, 1790, the Philadelphia Convention of Universalists approved a statement of faith, and that continued to vibrate and hum and changed in the Universalists through America. It took another 40 years for the American Unitarians to form and approve a statement of beliefs, title, Statement of Beliefs. Several more statements followed after that, especially in the Unitarians, who were really committed to argument and debate, intellectual engagement. Finally, Earl Morse Wilbur in 1945 said that we engage in the exploration of religion. And we have three principles to do religion: freedom, reason, and tolerance. But in that time, there was a hegemony of Protestant Christianity in this world. There was a bunch of conventions about society and who is right and who is wrong and how you should live your life. In 1945, he could just say, well, it's religion, it's more about religious ideas, and all we need is freedom, reason, and tolerance. But now the world is much less stable. We have made some changes. Women have power now that they did not have in the 1940s, right? 1945. Gay people actually exist. Right? The world is waking up in some ways. We liberals and progressives, not just Unitarian Universalists, but the whole community of people who are moving towards justice and tolerance and acceptance and freedom that affirms the goodness and health and well-being of human beings. It's all growing, but it's created instability. It's created anxiety for some people, especially those people who love certainty and are not finding it. Some people are trying to create go back and find the Christian hegemony, the rule of doctrine and pattern and disciplines. They want to create that and then force it on others. That's not the way into community. It's not going to bring about a true and just and loving community. It's going to force a sense of comfort for them, but other people will be left out, disoriented, angered. So Unitarian Universalists struggle to enunciate what it is we're trying to offer to the world, or that we want to see in the world, or that is already in the world and that we are nurturing and growing. 1961, we formed a Unitarian Universalist Association out of the Unitarians and Universalists. We created the Statement of Principles and Purposes within Article 2 of our bylaws. 20 years later, these really seem dated and inadequate. It's no longer every 100 years we come up with a new statement. Now it's every 20 or 40 years, right? In 1985, we created a new Statement of Principles and Sources that was approved. 10 years later, we adapted another source. 2017, there was a big push to add an 8th principle against anti-racism, and there was discussions in this congregation about how to talk about fighting racism, and what is our opinion about, what do we feel about, what are we going to do about racism, right? Evil, long-standing evil in human culture. I had trouble describing it and exactly saying what we were going to do about it. And then in 2021, a study commission was formed to propose changes to our association's bylaws, and last year they came up with a report, like last October, and they made a proposal for those changes. They said the main functions of this article in our bylaws are just legal and organizational, and it sets up parameters of our association's organization. But in the first phase of our process, it became clear to us that in addition to these main functions which are required of any bylaws, there were many other functions that UUs expected it to fill. Educational, theological, ethical, evangelical. We wanted words, and we wanted shared words that we were confident about and certain about, that we could use to explain to people what the heck's going on in this building, right? What the heck, what kind of community we're trying to create, not only amongst ourselves, but in the world. Last week, thousands of UUs came online to discuss and debate a new Article 2. This is our way. This is our way. There's only one truth. There's only one ultimate reality. There's only one human family. There's only one earth with one biosphere in which we all must thrive with our non-human siblings. But there are a million ways to invoke and describe and explore the aspects of that one. So we've created the kind of community where we keep seeking new words and descriptions of what we're doing. The new statement says, we draw from our heritages of freedom, reason, hope, and courage. Reason and freedom and hope and courage, building on the foundation of love. Love is the power that holds us together. Love is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values out through the spiritual discipline of love. It's just like Jackie DeShannon sang back in 1969. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing there's just too little of. She says not just for some, but for everyone. So it's funny, when I first came here, I said, what are your major social justice projects? And people were kind of vague about that, or said, well, we're trying to develop this. And it was obvious to me already that the pantry and the packing fellowship and fighting food insecurity in this valley was already our central, most actively engaged in project of justice and compassion and community building. I see all sorts of people who would never come into worship here. I've never seen them in any other place, but they come right up to our building and get something from us. Feel that there's someone who cares about them enough, at least, to give them a toothbrush and some Cheerios, right? Or maybe more. It's an act of love. It's an act of saying, you are part of my community, even though I don't know who you are. You are part of my community, even though you are poor and hungry. You are one of my people, and I care about you. And we do that naturally, easily, abundantly. I'm wondering what more we need to do in terms of food security. There's a whole bunch of little pantries and stuff all over the place. So I heard about a new outlet for food that people can come in and rating systems in terms of what's most healthy and that kind of stuff. But there needs to be some sort of overarching coordination between that. There needs to be some way of reaching out to the communities where there's still a lot of insecurity. There still needs to be children who do not grow up feeling hungry and desperate and all they can think about is the next meal. Instead, they can think about being good to their friends, and succeeding in school. Great writer and thinker Friedrich Buechner once said, vocation is where our great joy meets the world's great need. May we continue to find the world's great need and meet it. I thought about the joy and happiness and energy that was at the Pride Festival. We were there. I also heard that there were some differences of opinion about a poster about Jesus and what our relationship was to other religious communities. What is the role of all these religious communities? One of the things I'm proudest of is the Interfaith Justice Coalition. Not just it's funny, in this city, the word interfaith kind of means Methodists and Lutherans and even some Episcopalians. Wow. But the word interfaith obviously also invokes the nascent Muslim community and all the Jewish people and all the tribal religions, all the people of any religious, spiritual pathway gathering together, bringing them together, who all want to serve justice. Justice being harmony, wholeness. The word gets devolved down into punished criminals, but the word originally was this perfect state of unanimity and wholeness and care for one another. So much more that we want to do, that we could do. We begin with ourselves as we are. We begin caring for one another and then extending that out to others and then out to the whole world. Because what the world needs now is love. And those who are willing to work in all sorts of ways out of the foundation of love.
We are blessed by your generosity. May your gifts make a difference in our communities through the ministries of this church.
In the spirit of this worship, Deb reminded me that we didn't say hi to the people on Zoom, so I invite first of you all turn around. Imagine the entire world is out there on Zoom. Say hi. And then I remind you of the power of love. It vibrates and hums and moves through our words, through our actions, through the sweet treats we share, through the coffee. May we enjoy love. May it move us to do great things. If not now, tell me when.
And now, as we extinguish our chalice, please join us in saying the words printed in your order of service or on the screen or in the chat. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. All right, let's circle up for our closing song.
Carry the flame of peace and love until